What's good, internet? CJ Ballistic here, and I wanted to continue talking about the potential concepts of the rumored Halo Combat Evolved remake that will be teased at this upcoming HCS. In the last video that I talked about this, I only brought up the front-facing aspects of the game such as the menu UI and reimagined level designs in the core missions themselves. Here I will be talking about how the remake could potentially improve upon in context through its gameplay. What I mean by this is for extra story from the books to be added to the remake via campaign expansions. Having the original campaign with Master Chief at the front will always be the main focus of this remake, but having an expansion that's similar with how ODST did with Halo 3 by putting the player in the boots of a common marine or shock trooper will open the game to events that we only envisioned about through the books. But let's not keep to just the events of Installation 04. By including the original trilogy of books, we can include battles that were never before seen. For example, we could include the Fall of Reach through Chief's POV, starting from the Mark V testing site, or Red Team split off from Blue Team leading into the defense of the MAC generators from a different Spartan's perspective. Maybe switch between Red Team's fight for the generators to Chief's mission to the UNSC circumference. Not only that, but we could have another expansion acting as an aftermath to bridge the gap between Combat Evolved and Halo 2. By having a follow-up campaign expansion after the events of Alpha Halo, we could still play as the Chief through the major events of First Strike, such as the slipspace battle of the Ascendant Justice, Red Team's rescue from Reach, or the invasion of the unyielding Hierophant that will lead into the events of Halo 2. Adding these unseen stories will bring a bigger picture to the potential new fans who aren't fully invested in reading a library of books. Along with the expanded story should come with a much bigger sandbox. Since I already discussed the potential vehicles and weapons that could be included in the last video, here I will be talking about the possibility of a larger roster in both allies and enemies. Adding allies like the UNSC Army Troopers, medics, and more importantly ODSTs into the fray to fight alongside the standard Marines will definitely bring more life into the basic fighting force that we're used to. It would also be very relieving to be in a backfooting of a legendary playthrough, only to get saved by a trooper who's a good shot with a sniper rifle, or better yet, a Marine crew driving around in a rocket hog. Hell, let's add priority to your allies and have the medics be one of the only ways to heal you during a mission outside of UNSC controlled areas. The Covenant should be creatively reconfigured for this remake as it's one of the two primary antagonists in the game. The beginning of the game should mostly consist of lesser ranked enemies such as basic minor ranks of the elites, grunts, and jackals, using mostly plasma rifles, repeaters, and pistols, eventually being replaced by their major ranked counterparts early to mid game, wielding carbines and needlers. Heading into late game, the common enemy should not be taken lightly anymore, if they're promoted to their heavy and ultra variations that carry fuel rod cannons, plasma casters, and energy swords. But to keep it consistent, the lesser ranks should still take a part in the latter half so they won't be pushed to the back so early on. But to keep the late game difficulty relevant to the lesser ranks, upgrade their arsenals like having the elite miners dual wield plasma rifles or needlers. But that's just the common enemies, bad guys that you'll run into the most often. There should also be special variations for special encounters like the invisible spec ops, zealots, the infamous jackal snipers, and even suicide grunts. Let this be a possibility to expand the roster by having old enemies return such as skirmishers, drones, and engineers. I haven't brought up the hunters yet because I wanted them to be seen more as a boss fight, considering in lore they're seen more as a force to be reckoned with rather than being an enemy obstacle that has a very boring weak spot. Re-envisioning the Hunter Bond brothers as a proper boss fight should require a great deal of effort for the player to outmaneuver their army of two battle stances in order to rid parts of their armor to attack the worm colony within. Once one Bond brother goes down, a sort of phase 2 begins, making the other enormous walking wall turn into a raging bull-like battering ram with a high explosive plasma cannon that abuses it by firing in all directions around himself. This will be a much different experience from what everyone is used to. Following into the later half of the game with the other main antagonist in the Flood, bringing back the tank pure form as a tougher variant combat form with alternate variations is a clever idea considering that there were some in stasis on the ring and even appeared during Fireteam Raven. But the tank pure form isn't my main focus here. It's the enemy that was cut in Halo 2, the Flood Juggernaut. With the same reasoning as the tank pure forms, giving a boss battle to the Flood in the form of the Juggernaut, followed by an entourage of combat forms, would be adrenaline fueling. Having to take down the behemoth would require more than dumping your entire mag into the beast. Here, the heavy use of fire and plasma weapons should be required to weaken the Juggernaut and provide a good enough weak spot for burning the creature. That is, if the player can keep up with the horde of combat forms chasing them. Not only should the Flood get a boss fight, but also the Monitor's Sentinels, and the Halo 2 Enforcers are the perfect enemies to give that role to. Acting as guards in several key locations around the ring, the Enforcers should be considered as sleeping giants, only attacking if the object or pathway they're guarding is provoked. Having the Enforcers guard the pulse generators would be a great boss fight for the objectives at hand. Anywhere else would be considered a side boss to unlock certain areas, weapon caches, and such. Using high-grade explosives or even hard-light weaponry should be required to destroy the large Sentinel piece by piece. Now, with these two new possibilities for the remake being campaign expansions and boss battles, new areas and enemies are brought in to further push the 2 to 4 player PvE multiplayer focus. Having 3 factions to face off against would be a great way to integrate something like Firefight. It would be the best if the remake doesn't come with PvP multiplayer, since the community already has the Master Chief Collection, as well as Halo Infinite for that. Including another one would separate the player base among 3 different titles. That's really everything I wanted to expand upon from the first video, since I did give a short answer for them when I was making it. If these ideas were interesting to you, like the video. Leave a comment if you have some thoughts and ideas of your own that you would like to share. I would still love to talk about this. I do have several more plans for future videos, so if you want to stick around, subscribe to the channel. Alright, I'm gonna head off now. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys on Xbox Live. See ya.